I really love to work with my hands. So with mini model making, it is a way for me to create an entire world just by myself. That's the best part about it, is that it's solitary. It's a very calming thing for me. I don't have a lot of stuff in my life that's just for me, but this is. I do enjoy working with people, but for certain aspects of my life, I really like to be alone. It just brings me a lot of joy. Starting the sculpture, making her little feet, but I don't know how this is gonna go. I'm just kind of trying stuff out. When I want to begin a mini model, it usually begins with a single point of inspiration. I'm a very visual person, so sometimes I'll just see an image that just really sticks out to me for some reason. And then I remember this statue, which is from Nara's Dreamland, the defunct amusement park. It was a huge fountain with a lot of really intense water features. Because of that, when it was drained, it had this huge pipe system that I just thought was so interesting, covered in rust and stuff like that. I want it to be really, really imposing. So in this universe, this is 34 feet long. I am a production design concentration, and a lot of production designers professionally do make mini models. So they kind of go hand in hand. However, I feel like with the amount of control I have in these small spaces, it allows me to really play with composition in a way that's low stakes, doesn't take a lot of energy, and just gives me a sense of greater control over, I guess, my eye for design. I love model making kits. I think they're a really helpful way to get into it. I started with a model making kit. My mom got me one for Christmas 2 years ago, and that was the first introduction while I was an adult into mini model making. You want something that's just calming. It's really nice to use someone else's design and have these materials that are already the right color, they're already the right size. All you have to do is compile them, do a couple things to them. I really enjoy them. For the little abandoned studio, I wanted to do something that was just fun, just for me. I had this idea of the apothecary cabinet, so I started with just that. But then I continued to need something to work on, so I just kept going with it. The inspiration for that one was the Fisher body plant, which was a huge abandoned warehouse that actually exists. When it comes to making mini models for other people or for projects I've been asked to make, I was going the more professional route with it. I started with preliminary sketches with measurements. So these are all my drafts. And this is the part of the text that talks about the mini. This is my first drawing. So yeah, there was about 45 to 60 hours put into the project before I even began to make the mini model. I never really feel like a model is totally finished. I get to a point where I feel like if I add any more, it's going to muddle the idea, or I'm just being very nitpicky. But there are plenty of things I want to change about all of my models. The first model, the little mortuary that I made, I wish I had aged it. It kind of looks like a newer building compared to my other stuff. With the warehouse, there's a lot of little details that I would like to add into it to kind of elevate it, but I was making that one on a deadline, so I didn't have as much time to add everything I wanted. But no, I don't feel like any model is really finished, but I also don't like to go back and touch them because I feel like I'll regret it. I tend to focus a lot on material because I think texture is something that's really hard to get right in mini models, because even if you take a sponge and you need a really small sponge, you cut a piece out of that sponge, the pores are still going to be giant. The pores are not going to make sense. I use a lot of balsa wood because balsa wood has a very tight grain. So you can use a big piece of balsa wood, but you can cut it down and it's still going to look to scale in this space. I do really like to use real things because sometimes there's no way to imitate the real thing on the shelf, so they're actual crystals, but they're just chiseled off of bigger crystals. My favorite part of the process is those last steps where you're putting all of those fine details in. I really like aging things. I like adding moss, dirt, and I like to think of how it would actually age. So for the Victorian studio, the window's broken, so there's a significant amount of green mold going into the windows. Love abandoned spaces. I've always loved abandoned spaces. And I also love the reclaiming of nature. I just think that's so awesome. I would love to live in my miniature. My most recent one, the art studio, I'd like a whole mansion like that.
You're in it right now.
Oh, I'm in it. Oh my god, I'm in it. It's my dream. What?